Hello, I'm Sharon Lynn, and I'm the owner of Mountain States Health Products. We have a concierge distributorship that I've been able to curate formulas to deliver to the practitioners for over 30 years. My background is as a classical homeopath, and over the years I've done a lot of different research and classes in nutrition and health and healing, and today I'm here with Judah Vitale, and he has just moved to Colorado. He's a functional nutritionist, and he is one that's developed his own nutritional program where he reached out to a lot of different colleges and professors to really customize his studying in the field of nutrition and health. So he's been doing this for quite a while, and his real passion is doing classes and teaching others how to develop their concepts of functional nutrition and working in the field. So I'm going to give it to Judah, and thank you for joining us today in this lovely Colorado, Lyons, Colorado.
It is so beautiful. Thank you for having me here. This is such a treat, and it's so great to get to know you and find all the people that we know in common. Yeah. So it's always such a joy. I believe it's such a big world, but it's so small as far as degrees of separation and connection.
Absolutely. Judah and I were just talking about Jeffrey Bland and his training and teaching way back, like, I don't know, 30 or 40 years ago. I did my first conference and lecture with Jeffrey Bland, and was definitely a devotee after that, and just listening to him was just the brilliance of his mind. And he was one of the first out there in the field teaching nutrition that I could actually find to study with at the time, because when I started doing homeopathy in my early 20s, there was nowhere to learn. So what I started to do was work in study groups. And that was really the only training you could find at the time, was working with study groups to learn homeopathy, because it was out there, but it wasn't out there like it is now. There were, you had to search to find books, and they were all coming from India. And the bindings would always fall apart. You'd take them everywhere with you, and you'd stick them all back together with tape and everything. But that was my start. And your start was with Jeffrey Bland too, and many others.
Yeah. One day I met a naturopathic doctor when I was 21, and had this great conversation with him. And after that, it was like the switch had been turned on. It's like, oh, this is why I'm here.
So you came from New Jersey, so when you grew up, were you interested in health and healing? And
how it all started for me was I actually got sent away to boarding school because I was that kid. My parents didn't really know what to do with me, so they're like, we're going to let somebody else raise you. And so I got sent away to boarding school, and at that boarding school, it was full of people into the Grateful Dead.
Oh yeah, well, I see where this is going. Yeah.
And natural lifestyle. And so I started falling into the natural lifestyle, and because of that, I naturally became interested in the food I was eating and using nutritional means for health and healing. And so I had my mind was already opened to like herbal medicine and vitamins and minerals and stuff like that. And then it was just kind of this, I was naturally going down that path when this person walked into my path. And so I was kind of like primed. And then in this conversation with him, I realized, like, oh, this is what I'm really passionate about.
So the light bulb went on and said, this is what I'm meant to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I knew why I was here. I knew what I was here to do. And from that moment, I just invested myself in the study of alternative modalities and nutrition and herbs and spiritual pursuits. That was really what my life focus became. And I always knew that, it's like there was always something deep inside of me that knew that the spiritual pursuits and the health and the healing and the physiology intersected somewhere. But I wasn't exactly sure where yet. And then I got introduced to a gentleman's work by the name of Rudolf Steiner.
Oh, that's the anthropology.
The anthroposophy.
Anthroposophy.
Yep.
Yes, thank
That's
you.
the anthroposophical pursuit.
Yeah, yeah.
And so his work, in the realm of the the realm of our thinking and our feeling and our will impulses and the physiology and alchemy and understanding that everything spiritual or everything physical is coming from something spiritual, right? So the spirit has to have a home in the physical. It's not like the spirit's out over here. It's integrated into the physiology, and it's finding those integrations. And so I started to really study physiology from a spiritual scientific standpoint, and then took that and merged it with insights around functional medicine.
Ah, beautiful.
And the root causes of illness, and understanding the interconnectedness of the physiology. And so then kind of, the broader term here would be like the psychoneuroendoimmunology, right? So understanding how the thoughts and the feelings and the will impulses are all influencing the physiology all the way down to our DNA.
Absolutely, it's the mind-body connection.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of where my broader scope of work came from. And I started working on something that I called Earth Spirit Nutrition, and that was my spiritual scientific take on nutrition. And that's how I view the person. So when I started working with people, it was like, okay, most of my work, nutrition was a part of it, but what I came to realize was everything is nutrition. We swim in nutrition like a fish does water, because what we're truly nourished by is our sense perceptions. Everything we see, everything we hear, everything we taste, everything we touch, everything we smell interacts with the nervous system to the endocrine system, and based on our perception of that information, it's going to elicit a very specific response. And that response could be either A, joyful, pleasureful, nourishing, upbuilding, or it can be stressful, and it could be detrimental. And just as there's junk food that goes in the mouth, there's junk food that goes in the eyes and the ears. And so that's kind of what I started to look at as nutrition was, it's actually a full sensorial experience. And it's not just what goes in the mouth. In fact, what goes in the mouth is only a minor fraction of what true nutrition is.
So that's how you practice. You practice individual.
Completely individualized.
Yeah, that's
the only right diet that exists in this world is the diet that's right for that individual.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, because so many practitioners do not practice this way. They get into a rhythm, a routine, and everybody's treated the same. And I am, because of my homeopathic background and training, that's how we looked at everything too. And Rudolf Steiner, of course, was from that homeopathic background as well. So it's taking in everything, mind, body, spirit, and then really looking at the individual. So how did this happen? When did this start? Let's go back to birth. Let's go back to preconception, and let's really look at what is your life about. And I get so many questions from practitioners about, okay, I have a patient with breast cancer, what do I do?
Right.
I say, well, it's not that easy. You're going to have to give me a lot more information for me to come and say, okay, what's her diet like? What's her life like? What's her marriage like? What's her family life like? What does she do for a living? There's so many questions, and it's not just like, oh, if you have a cold, take this. That's easy. But if you have breast cancer, you can't just take this.
Right. Yeah, the individualized approach to health is what we were talking about.
Right.
And no two of us are like, oh, and this is what I want to comment on, is because you were talking about, with homeopathy, it's so much more than like see symptom, treat symptom, or just our programming begins when we're in the womb with our mom's program.
Absolutely.
Our mom's fears and patterns are what start to get ingrained in us. I mean, so it's in utero, where we start to pick up programming. And then I did a lecture once for a Waldorf school called Nourishing the Soul of a Child, and one of the things about being human is that it's all imitation. Cellular replication is imitation, right? From the moment of conception, it's imitation.
I like that. Cellular. Can you repeat
Yeah,
that?
cellular replication is imitation. It's an imitation that's taking place. And then when we're born, we imitate our parents. And, and so it's like what our parents are doing is what we're doing. And, so it's this, it's so much more than, my immune system is compromised, or why do I have cancer now? Or it's like, we need to take your entire life history and put it into context and find the patterns.
Yes.
Find where the patterns exist, and then find the meaning in it and the purpose for it. And then we can start to get there. And that's really the nutritional work I've done. That's really where my nutritional work goes. It's so much more than telling somebody, don't eat grains, don't eat beans, don't eat dairy, get on an autoimmune paleo or a paleo style diet, drop the inflammation. That's kind of a foundation, that's like something that's kind of cookie cutter that a lot of people can benefit from.
Right.
But it really comes down into what's your relationship with food like? What's your relationship with life like? Your relationship with food is going to reflect your relationship with life. So let's talk about the real things. Who are you as an individual? And then we can begin to go in and do the real deep nutritional work.
Wow. So typically when you have a new patient, how long are you spending with that patient?
The first session would usually be at least, at bare minimum, an hour. Usually runs over 90 minutes. It could be 2 hours, But it's, and it's it's trust building.
Right.
Somebody will only do what's asked of them if they trust the person they're doing it with.
Yes.
And feel a relationship there.
That's the whole start of being in practice, is building a relationship with your patient.
That's right.
And your client. Spend like an hour or 2 hours at a time.
Least that. Yeah.
So in those 2 hours, you're building a relationship. And do you often suggest foods, diets, prescribe nutrients, or do you kind of sit back and think about the patient for a while and wait?
What I tend to do is, my number one goal is just to be present with the patient. That's my absolute number one goal, is to be present with the person and create a real sense of safety. And in that, and in doing that, and being present and creating a sense of safety, that person can open up in a way that they may never do with somebody else. Because most people really know what they need to do. It's in there.
They will tell you, usually,
yes.
if you're listening, what they need. They
That's right.
always tell the practitioner.
That's right.
And most practitioners, because they're limited in time, they have 10 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes, 10 minutes, especially if they're going to major medical, and they never hear what the patient says they need.
Well, and there's the hierarchy.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Which I don't believe in the hierarchy. I believe that I am an equal partner in their process, and that I have no more authority than they do. In fact, I'm their employee, and I'm here to guide them where they need to go. So I might recommend something. I might say, well, you know what, we can start here with this style of eating, and maybe just try removing this and see if that makes you clears up the brain fog, or the, XYZ.
Right.
It depends on what they're dealing with, right? Like if they've got leaky gut or they've got other things, there's definitely certain things I'm going to do. But for the most part, I'm going to do my best to meet them where they're at. Because in my experience, if I give somebody a full diet to do and 20 supplements to take, and then and do this mind-body awareness technique too while you're at it, they're not going to do any of it. Yeah. And then they're going to feel like a failure.
That's absolutely right.
Right. So I'm here to build them up, and so it's like baby steps. I really see what the person can handle at the time, and that's part of being present. So I just kind of allow for the space to be creative for me to perceive them in as deeply as I can, and then provide them simple things to do, so that they come back and they go, wow, that actually worked, and I can do that. It's like, okay.
And this is getting better too. By the way,
Right.
my brain fog's improved, and I'm actually sleeping better.
Right.
And you've done one thing, because they're really in control. You know, you
Yeah.
have to give them the permission to be in control of their health too.
Right, and I don't want them to do something because their nutritionist told them to.
Yeah.
I want them to do something because it's alive for them to do it. Like, they've come to their own realization that they're cultivating their relationship with their own self and their own health, and then they're empowered. They have a real reason for doing it.
Yes.
You know, so that's my goal.
That's beautiful. So now that you're here in Colorado, what's the future plans that you have?
The future plans is I as much as I have enjoyed being a practitioner, I prefer to be out teaching and speaking with people, and I really like doing something different every day. That's really nourishing for me, and I love to travel, and so now I have been fortunate enough to be hired by Nordic Naturals Professional Division. So I will be a field sales consultant for Nordic Naturals. So in their professional division, I'll be visiting healthcare professionals throughout the four corners. So Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and getting to educate all styles of integrative and functional medicine doctors about the benefits of omega-3 fish oils, and helping them get better results with their patients, basically, which is what I really love to do.
Have you traveled in those four corner regions?
I have I have, because in the past I was director. Well, I've done it recreationally.
Yes.
I lived in Boulder in 1996.
Oh, okay. You
and
have
97.
lived there. Oh, okay.
Yeah, a long time ago, when it was significantly smaller.
When it was real Boulder.
Yes, when it was real Boulder. But I've also traveled around for business in all four of those states. I was director of education for Mega Food for some time.
Oh yes, Mega Food.
Yeah,
Right.
which is,
And we're distributors for the NA.
Yep.
Yes.
So and so we probably know some of the same people there too, so I've traveled around there for business, and I've done it for recreation as well. So
wonderful.
So now what I look forward to is merging the two.
Yes. Oh, good. Well, it's beautiful. You're lucky to be in those beautiful states.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a language of symbolism. There was a reason why they use symbols.
Yeah.
And as their language, and so only if you knew, you knew.
And I love his energy, and it's all family. Everybody that works there is family, you know, and it's just done, and it's done in the right way. Like I said, you feel the energy coming off the herbs. Yeah. You know, walking in that greenhouse and seeing all the demijohns there with all the herbs in it, and just looking at them lined up on the sand. He puts the sand on the bottom from the riverbed, so they get that energy from the riverbed. You know, and he's got the solfege music piped in there, so you're getting the frequency. Yeah, you're getting the frequency, and there's birds chirping in the. And you just sit there and you think, I don't want to leave. Yeah. And the minute you walk in there, you start to get tired, and you just feel like, oh, I just want to stay here. I feel so good. So I just think Dominique from Urban Hillbilly is really a true alchemist, and it's a true process.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. More of that. We need more of that.
We totally, and that's why I thought, wow, this is what I need to bring. I mean, he's got the gemotherapy, and he actually has his father in charge of collecting the gemo buds. They have this beautiful region of a forested area where you can actually go and collect the gemo buds. Wow. And you know, the buds, but he said, because when I was over there in February, and I said, Dominique, the trees are blossoming. It seems a little early. And he said, yes, global warming is a problem. Yeah. And he said the problem is that the buds aren't as nutrient rich because you get buds because it's too soon, so they're not carrying the nutrients you need to go into that bud to really extract it. So some buds he can't use for their products. So, you know, like sambucas. He said we can't get this bud anymore because it's just not available.
Wow.
It was all water, so it just didn't have the elements that he needs in it. But he's in the Puglia region of Italy, and it's a big wine growing and olive oil region. So he actually gets the wine, and he makes a spagyric wine alcohol from that, and that's what he soaks the herbs in.
That's his extraction medium.
That's his extraction medium. Isn't that cool?
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you get the energy from the wine, and you know, it's just brilliant what he's doing.
Oh wow.
It is just brilliant. So so eventually, when everything starts to, you know, get back to some semblance of normal here in our world, I will be able to take a group of practitioners over to Italy.
Oh wow.
And you know, he'll show you the process and everything, and demonstrate that to you, and then you'll eat a lot of food while you're over there, so you have to be ready for that.
That's the Italian way.
Oh my God, but it's so yeah, I think I gained like 10 pounds in 3 days. Yeah. It's like, no, I can't eat anymore, really, but I want to, you know.
Yeah.
And the wine is beautiful, and it's just it's a well-known region for their seafood and their wine and the olive oil. It's lovely too. So we're really excited to be their distributor here in this country.
I would imagine so. What a gift that is, to bring that kind of product into the marketplace and introduce practitioners to that. Because I think there's a lot of people that are looking for something more than just your standard nutritional supplements.
Yeah, and this is much more than just that. And it
because
works
now
on
you're
those
working on
energetic
all the levels.
Yes.
Right? Because with that you have the soul and the spirit.
Absolutely.
And then you put the body back in, and that's the salts.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you extract the soul and the spirits for the alcohol, or the extraction medium is going to pull out the essences, and you know, the mercurial and the sulfurous parts, as far as alchemy is concerned.
Yes.
And then you take that mash and you fire it up and you burn it and turn it into this really fine ash and mix it with the water and let that evaporate and take the salts.
Yeah, and then put it back together.
Right.
So
and
it's all a blend.
The body back with the soul and the spirit, which is what we are.
Yes.
Right? And so you're getting a remedy that works on all of those levels. And that's the future. Well, that's where we've always been.
But we've forgotten it. On the journey.
Exactly.
Yes.
So now it needs to become the future again. And Rudolf Steiner had a great quote that I really believe in. And it said, the goal is to take the wisdom of the ancients, merge that with the knowledge of the present, and take those two and move that into the future.
Brilliant.
And that's what something like Ergonomically, that's what I can see that they're doing by what you're sharing, and that's where we need to be doing more of.
Absolutely, and I believe homeopathy is going to have a resurgence as well, because that's the energetic medicine.
Well, and as our technology becomes more and more sensitive, you know, because that's the direction it's heading.
Yes.
It's becoming more and more sensitive, and as it becomes more and more sensitive, it's going to start to validate things like homeopathy, just like physics validates the Vedas from ancient India.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, they were telling us all about the cosmos without ever having
to know the cosmos.
Because they were doing it from inside.
Yes.
Right. And so now modern physics is saying the exact same thing the Vedas were saying 10,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. And I think our technology is going to it's going to catch up, so to speak. And all these things that have been woo-woo aren't going to be so woo-woo anymore.
I believe that. I mean, that's the thing about the Urban Nobly when I was over there. I just felt like those products had soul. Yeah. That's what, and I thought, wow, these are alive. And that was the other thing that really caught me. It was like, oh my God, these are live formulas. I'm giving somebody something that's really going to feel. Yeah. And it energetically, but in those levels, the soul level, you know, where you can dream and feel it in your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true nourishment.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. I thought, yeah. With that and the Pennexi line that we have with the Chinese herbs, I just really feel like we can take, we're at the next level of really being available for, what is different.
Yeah.
And what can I present to you that's not just a B vitamin.
Not another Me Too.
Right.
There's too many Me Too's out there.
And they keep coming.
Yes.
Every day there's another Me Too. And
That's right.
Okay, I've seen this.
30,000 is the same thing.
Yeah, it's all B complex. It's like, so where do you think they all come from? The same place.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I really like being in this field and finding, procuring those types of formulas that nobody else has and people are looking at and saying, no, this is what we have and this is how we can work with you. And I can see you're that type of a person that looks for formulas like that to work with your patients.
Yeah.
And you'll be teaching that to your practitioners that you come across too. Yeah.
It's all about quality, not just physical quality, but qualities.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
you
you.
so much for spending the time and being available for this talk. And I hope we get to spend more time together.
Me too.
I look forward to
I
having you
live just
over.
down the road.
Yeah, I know. Just down the road. We can come have dinner in my beautiful garden here.
Yes. I would love that.
That's great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.